Hey guys, Joshua Neal here, and today we're looking at Cult of Personality by Living Colour. Remember, if you enjoy the lesson, don't forget to click like and let me know. You can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates. And as always, don't forget to grab the full note and tab transcription downstairs so you can follow along at home. Alright, let's get to it. So let's take a look at the main riff. Now we are in standard tuning for this one, so no need to retune your bass. The guitar plays the first main riff by itself, the bass joins in with the drums the second time through, and that riff looks like... So we're starting on the 3rd fret of the E string, going from the 3rd fret up to the 3rd fret of the D, then I'm coming down to open D, back to the 3rd fret of the E string, up to the 2nd fret of the D, and then we repeat that riff. 3, 3 on the D, open D, 3 on the E, and then 2nd fret on the D, and we hit that twice, 2 16th notes. So that looks like... Now there's an infinite number of ways you could play this riff. The way that I've written it out and the way that I'm playing it is so I don't have to move around as much as possible. I get to stay in the same part of the bass as much as possible. You could also play this riff play with that 5th fret D in a closed position, and I've even seen some people play it like this. Which just seems silly to me. Why would you move around the bass that much if you can reach all the notes right here in one position? So that's the way I'm going to be showing it to you from here on out, but you're welcome to play these notes in any position that you please. So that little intro riff gets us into the full intro, the main riff, and we're going to be repeating that riff over and over again. Now typically when there are not vocals going on, the bass is going to grab the low E's. The guitar is still doing grabbing the E on the 2nd fret of the D string. The bass, when there are no vocals during a solo section or these little interludes, the bass is going to go down to the low E. So that will look like... And so it's the exact same riff, except the E's are dropped an octave. So it's still 3, 3, open, 3, then open E, 3, 3, open, 3, open E. And the second time through we add that extra 16th note at the end. And this is going to be the pattern throughout this riff. The first time through it, it's going to end with the 1 E, and the second time through, it's going to end with 2 E's. So far in riff number 1, we've got... And then we get into a little 3/4 bar. This is the first part of the moving line that we're going to see later as part of the interludes, and that looks like 3 on the E string, 3 on the D, open D, back to 3 on the E, up to 5 on the D, 3, open, then 2nd on the G, 3 on the D, open, 3 on the A, 2 on the A, and then we're back into the main riff. So that's... And then we're back into the main riff. Since it's the first time through, we're only going to have 1 hit on the E. And then this second time, and this is a variation that you're going to see throughout the whole song, whenever they go through the riff right before the vocals are about to come back in, the bass always goes... So he does that first E high on the D string, on the 2nd fret of the D string, and the second time he will do the 2 E hits on the low string. And that gets us into riff number 2, which is the verse. Now I've notated each of the verses individually because they're not exactly the same all the way through the song. They do follow a pattern, but because of the cadence of the lyrics, the spacing of them, it's not always going to work out to the same number of times through the riff before we get to the sustained half notes. So I will break it down, the individual parts of the riff for the first verse, and I'll explain the pattern that's going on, but I will not go in depth into the second and the third verse unless they have been a little different. So riff number 2, we're going to start with that main riff. So we got that one. First time through, he will always end on 1 E, and during the verses, he's doubling the guitar exactly. He's going up to the high E on the D string. So we got that first time through, we only hit 1 E at the end. The second time through, we will hit 2 E's at the end. And then right from there, we'll go to a B flat. We're going to hold this for 2 beats, and then go down to an F, first fret on the E string. We're going to hold that for 2 beats. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when we come out of these sustained half notes, he's always going to start with ending on 1 E, and then he'll go to ending on 2 E's, and he'll just switch back and forth between 1 E or 2 E's, and depending on how many times they're playing through that riff, he's typically going to end only landing on the 1 E before they go back to the half notes being sustained. Not always, but most of the time. So the next 5 bars are just going to alternate between and. So we'll go through 5 of them. So we're going to end on the 1 E hit, and then we'll start on that B flat again, first fret of the A string. And then instead of going to the first fret F, we will go to a 3rd fret C, still on the A string. And we'll come back to that main riff. And then back to 2 again. And we only get through this 3 times, so we're again going to end on just 1 E. We're back to first fret B flat, to a 1st fret F, then we go back to that main riff, and since it's only 1 time, we'll only end on the 1 E, then we're back to 1st fret B flat on the A string, and 3rd fret C. And for these long sustained hits, he's always going to alternate between B flat to F, and then B flat to C. So that whole number 2, that first verse, is going to look like this. Ending on 1, 2 of them, B flat, F, 1, 2, 1, 2 of them, 1, then B flat to 3rd fret C, 1, 2, 1, B flat to F, only 1 of them, B flat to 3rd fret C, and then we get into riff number 3. This is that real busy interlude that we have between some of the verses and into the choruses. So we'll break that down. The first part of it is going to be the same as that 3/4 bar from riff number 1. 3rd fret on the E, 3rd on the D, open D, 3rd fret, 5 on the D, 3, open, 2nd on the G, 3 on the D, open, 3 on the A, 2 on the so far we have and then the second half of the riff, we're going to keep moving up within the scale. So it's going to start the same way though. 3 on the E, 3 on the D, open D, back to 3 on the E, right up to 2nd fret on the G, so that big 3-string crossing, 3 on the D, open D, 5 on the G to 4, 5 on the D, 3 and open. So that second half is together is one, two, three, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to repeat that several times, and then we will get into riff number 4, which is the first chorus. Now, just like the verses are all a little bit different, the choruses are going to be all a little bit different. The choruses I will be breaking down part by part because they have their own distinct fills, and a lot of them are really cool and they're fun to play, so we'll check them out. We start on 1st fret B flat on the A string. For one beat, then we'll go B flat to 1st fret F on the and of 2. We'll hold that through and of 3, and then, sorry, we'll hold that into beat 3, hit F again on the and of 3, and then we have this little 16th note run, which is 1st fret, 1st fret, 3rd fret, 1st fret on the A string. So we've got 1, 2, and 4, E, and that takes us to 3rd fret on the A string, and we go 3, catch the 2nd fret on that last 16th note of beat 1, back to the 3rd fret, and then down to the 3rd fret of the E, same kind of rhythm, 2 and then we've got that exact same 16th note run that we did. We're just moving it up 2 frets, so we're going to go 3, 3, 5, 3. So far we've got 1, 2, and 4, E, and 1, and 2, and 4, E, and then we're going to grab the 5th fret up to the 7th fret of the D, right back to the 5th fret of the A, and then we've got 5, open, 5, quick to the 1st fret of the E string. We've got 1, 1, 3, 3rd fret of the A string, another one of those, and then this little 16th note fill again. 3 on the D string, 5, 3, to the 5th fret on the D string, or the open D, depends on your preference. So that second half is 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, E, and Then on the second line, we have this little scale run from B flat down to F. We're going to see this one a lot across the other choruses. Starts on the 1st fret of the A string to open A, 3rd fret to the 1st fret of the E string, then another 1st fret, then we've got that same 16th note run that starts on the 1st fret, 1, 1, 3, 1, these little pentatonic shapes that we see a lot, into the 3rd fret C, and we're going to have this C major triad here. The first chorus, the rhythm is a little different. Every other time it's going to be even 8th notes, but this one goes 1, 2. So 3rd fret, 2nd fret on the D, 5th fret on the D, that real common major triad shape. 1, 2, and. So So that octave, hopping down the octave to the 3rd fret of the E, another 3rd fret on the E, and then we do that 16th note run again, 3, 3, 5, 3. Then we're back to the 5th fret here, and this is similar to the last time we got up to the D chord, but we got something a little cool here. 5th fret to the 7th fret of the D, and then you hit the open A, and he does actually let this 7th fret ring through that open A, so you get this octave double stop there before you return to the 5th fret of the A, and then it's the same on the way out, 5, open, 5. So that 3rd measure on the 2nd line of number 4 is back to 1st fret for 2 beats, and then 16th notes on beat 3 and 4. 3 E and 4 E and building up with the drums. So number 4 all the way through is 1, 2, and 4 E and 1, 2, and 4 E and 1, 2, and 4 and 1, 2, and 4 E and 1, 2, and 4 E and 1, 2, and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 E and 4 E and then you're back into the main riff. This riff I've notated as number 5 because it's paired with a guitar solo. Instead of going up to the 2nd fret E, we're going to be down on the open E instead. And it's going to follow the same pattern that it does in the verses. We'll have one of them, 2 of them. We'll have another one that ends with just 1 E, and then that very last measure, because it is right before the vocals come back in, he's going to go up to the E the first time and come down to the E the next time. And that gets us into riff number 6, which you could also think of as 2A because it's the 2nd verse. I'll just talk through it real quick. We've got the same kind of pattern. 1 time, 2 times, and he's again coming up to the E because we are in a verse, we are with vocals at this point. We've got 4 measures, or twice through this 1-2 pattern. Then we do the B flat to F again. Then we got the 1-2 pattern again, and we'll only get through that 2.5 times actually. So we're going to end on a single hit. And then since it's the 2nd time for the half notes, we'll grab the 1st fret B flat to a 3rd fret C. Then we're back into the riff. Since we only get through the 1-2 pattern 1.5 times this time, we're again going to end on a single hit. 3rd time through the half notes, we've got B flat, 1st fret A to 1st fret F on the E string. Then we got 1s through the pattern, ending on just 1. Then B flat to 3rd fret C, and then we'll be back into that moving pattern there. And that brings us to riff number 7, or 4A if you want to think of it as that. This is the 2nd chorus, a little bit busier compared to the 1st chorus, so I'll go through each of the little fills that he does. We start much the same way. We've got 1st fret, A string, B flat on beat 1, then we go B flat to 1st fret F, followed by another hit on F, and then we've got this 16th note run again, but instead of 1, 1, 3, 1, instead of keeping it completely inside the chord or the scale, he actually adds a passing tone up to the C. So that's going to be 1st fret, 3rd fret, 1st fret on the A, 2nd fret on the A. So that first measure is 1, 2, and 4 E, and right into the 3rd fret C. Exact same pattern here. 3, 2, 3, 3rd fret on the E string. That's 1, 2, and another hit on the and of 3, and then we take that exact same 16th note pattern that we just did, and we're going to move it up to the G, just like we did in the previous chorus. So that's 3, 5, 3, 4. Then we bring back this D fill that we had. Doesn't sound like he lets it ring this time, but you can if you want to. So that's 5, 7, open, 5, 5, open, 5, and then 1, 1, 3. So 1, 2, and he just lets this ring through the measure because there's a big drum fill over it. Gets us into the next half of this chorus. Again, we're going to have that little descending scale starting on the 1st fret B flat, open A, 3rd fret G, 1st fret F, 1, 2, and then we'll have that chromatic 16th note run, 1, 3, 1, 2. We will have a C major triad just like we did before, except without the dotted 8th or 16th. It's going to be straight even 8th notes, 1 and 2 and then we have this little fill over the G chord. So that's 5th fret on the D to 5th fret on the A, back to 5th fret D, 5th fret A, and then 3rd fret to 5th fret on the E string. So that second bar on the second line of riff number 7 is 1 and 2 and 4 E and 4 E and then we get into probably one of the more distinct fills in this song, which we're going to see again in the guitar solo. Starting on the 5th fret D, up to the 7th fret on the D string A, and then we're going to go all the way to the 9th fret on the G. So we're going to have this big open 9th shape, 5, 7, 9, and then we're going to hit that 9th fret again, but we're also going to include the open D. So we get this nice double stop 9th. And then, as best as you can, he does leave that open D string mostly ringing as he plays the rest of this fill. It's a little bit difficult if you're not able to keep that D string ringing the whole way through. That's okay, no problem. 5, 7, 9, 9 open, double stop, and then that high riff, and I'll stop the D so you can hear it, is 9, 7, 9, 7 to the 7th fret on the D. So that measure, first measure on the 3rd line of number 7 is do that again. Then we're right down to 1st fret F, and then 1st fret to the 3rd fret, and this is a 2-4 bar here. 1, 2, and he's just going to sustain that C all the way through the next 2 measures, which are back to 4/4. So the next 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're having trouble counting this section, the guitar solo begins right on that final measure of riff number 7. So you'll be sustaining for 4 beats while the guitar solo starts, and then we will get into the next riff, which I'm going to cut into 2 parts because it's comprised of a verse progression and a chorus progression. This first half of number 8 is going to be the main riff that we have. Because it's a solo, we're going to be going to the low E rather than this 2nd fret E. He also mixes it up a bit. Rather than going with that end on one E, end on two E's pattern that he's been doing. He actually ends everything on two E's, at least for the first half. So we'll have and then we've got this little chromatic run that gets us back up to the next part of the riff. Open E, first fret F, second fret F sharp, right into that third fret G. So that last measure with that little run is, so that's E and the last 3 16th notes of the beat. We are back into this main riff, and from this part out he actually reverses the pattern. He will put the two E notes in the middle of the riff rather than at the end, and he'll end with a single riff, and he actually starts switching between them. So the first variant on that riff is it's 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and then he'll flip it back. So we had 2 up front the first time, and then we flipped it back. We went to the 1 and the 2, and this measure also ends with just a little hiccup on the open E before we get back into the main riff. And again, he flips it back to have 2 in the middle and 1 at the end, and then flips it around again. He actually only has 1 and 1 in this particular pattern, because the very last part of the bar is a big triplet with the drums to propel us into the next part of the riff, which is just triplet, or 4 and if you prefer to think of it that way. So the whole first half of number 8 is going to look like this, always ending on 2. Then we got the little run, 2, 1, 1, 2, hiccup, 2, 1, and then 1, 1, triplet. That brings us to 8A, which is a chorus progression, but still underneath the guitar solo. We're going to be seeing a lot of the same fills that we've seen before, just in a slightly different order, and in some cases a little bit busier. Again, starting on the first fret B flat to first fret of the F, and then we do the chromatic style 16th note run from the second chorus. 1, 3, 1, 2 on the A string to third fret on the A string, and we add a little bit to this riff here. So that's third fret, second fret, back to the third fret, and then a quick 5th fret on the A string before we come back to the third fret on the E string, and that's 1, 2, E, and then we will have that same 16th note run over the G chord that we had before. 5th fret on the D, 5th fret on the A, 5 on the D, 5 on the A, 3 on the E, 5 on the E. And that brings us to our D, which this fill is a little bit busier, but it's very similar to some of the other ones. 5th fret to the 7th fret on the D string, open A, 5th fret on the A string, and then we've got this little power chord looking run. Starts on the 7th fret of the A to the 7th fret of the G, back to 7 on the D, and then 5th fret, open, 5th fret, open on the A. So that measure, that first measure on the second line of 8A is and then comes drums, the really big fill, the bass player does actually follow the drums on this particular fill here. We start on the first fret of the F, and we've got a little 1, a 2, that dotted 8th to 16th rhythm, 1, a 2, and a 2 on the 3rd fret of the A string, and then we get this really big fill. So that, it doesn't sound like he's picking these notes individually, and it would be quite difficult to do so anyway at the speed that they're going by. So I'm actually doing this as primarily legato picking. It's all hammer-ons and pull-offs. So that starts with an open G to a 2nd fret, 3rd fret, back to 2nd fret, open G again, then 3rd fret on the D, open D, back to 3rd fret on the D, 2nd fret on the D, 3rd fret A, open A, and then we're going to end on a 1st fret B flat for the next part of the progression. So that whole second bar, or of the second line of 8A, is nice and slow this way. 1, 2, and so they're all 16th note triplets. Triplet, triplet, triplet. And you can see I'm only picking pretty much 3 times through that entire riff. That's 1. The next one is on the F. That's a hammer-on, or a pull-off to a hammer-on, and then 2nd fret, I'm pulling through to get that C, and then I'm pulling off to get that A. And that allows me to get to the B flat. So it's a lot of work in the left hand, but it would be really tough to actually get all those notes fully articulated. If you can do it individually picking it, great, but it's going by so quickly that if you choose to do it legato, nobody is going to fault you. Anyway, next part of the riff, we've got that scale run from the 1st fret again, 1st fret of the A, 1, open, 3 on the E, 1, and then we have that 16th note run, the chromatic one. 2. We have our C major triad again, and then hopping down the octave, 3, 2, 5, 3, and then we've got this actually G major bar chord. This is kind of a guitar shape that we're doing here, or however you choose to finger it. It's 5th fret on the A, 5th fret on the D, back to 5th fret on the A, and then 4th fret up on the G, 5th fret D, 5th fret A, 3rd fret on the E string. So that second bar, 3rd line of 8A is we've got this open 9th fill that he did in the previous chorus. The only difference between this one and the previous one is that he does not come down to that 7th fret A at the very end. It's just... we are right down to the 1st fret F, and we actually don't return to the C for this one. It's just a build up on F. 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and then we're back into this main riff. Because it's a solo, we're still going to be down on the low E. And we're back to the 1-2 pattern for at least a little while. So we've got that little chromatic build there again. Looking at the second to last line in riff 8A. So one of them, two, and then this little build, this little chromatic run, open, 1, 2 that we had before. We do the 2-in-1 flip again. So we flipped it around in that second to last bar, and then finally the last bar, because it's right where the vocals are about to come in, we're up to that E, and then we are down to the 2 low E's. And that brings us to riff number 9, which is the final verse, which also kind of segues into a chorus type feel, or just a fade out type feel. We're back to playing the E up on the D string rather than low, and we're also back to that ending on 1, ending on 2 pattern. So I will just kind of play and talk through this one. Got 1, 2 of them, 1, 2 of them, 1, 2, and then we go to 1st fret B flat, 1st fret F. We got 1 riff, so we're only ending on 1. We got B flat to C, and this is where it changes. Instead of continuing to go up high, we're going to go down low. So after the first B flat to C, we're going to have that low one. We're also going to grab 2 at the end rather than just 1. Then we are on the 1st fret B flat to the 1st fret F, and we do change it up a little bit here. We're going to do 3 and on that F, so it'll be 1, 2, 3 and back to the main riff. We're still keeping it low, only ending on 1, and then we have this little nice funky chromatic line. 1st fret A, so that 1st fret B flat. So we're starting on that 1st fret A for the B flat, then we do open A, 1st fret B flat, 2nd fret B natural, to a 3rd fret C, and then we're going to repeat that pattern but heading up to the D so we can get back down to the G. So we were on the 3rd fret C, we've got 2nd fret on the A, 3rd fret C again, up to 5th fret D, and then we're back to 3rd fret. So that riff there, that's the 4th line, 1st measure of riff number 9 is 1, 2 E and a 3, 4 E and a 1. And we are back to that main riff, we're keeping it low. And then this very last time, even though we're not going into the vocals, he also does that high-low switch again. And then there's the hold for the Kennedy sound clip. And finally we come to riff number 10, which is the little interlude riff, just with a little bit of variation. So you could also think of it as riff number 3B. Since the drums kick it up into a double time feel, I chose to notate this in 3/4 rather than, or in 3/4 at double speed rather than keep using 16th notes. We bumped it up to 8th notes, but it is the exact same riff. 3, 3 on the D, open, 3, 5, 3 on the D, open, 2 on the G, 3, open, 3, 2 on the A, and then we go up from there. 3, 3 on the D, open, 3 on the E, 2nd on the G, 3 on the D, open, 5 on the G, 4, 5 on the D, 3, and open. Repeat that. And then we actually actually cut short the second time. We're not going to go to that open D. We're going to end on the 3rd fret F, and this little 4-note cell is going to repeat over and over again, but to keep it interesting, the bass player actually changes octaves every other time. So the first time through, we've got 5, 4, 5 on the D, 3 on the D, and then we take that whole thing down an octave. So down 2 and back 2. That'll be 3rd fret on the A, 2nd fret, 3rd fret on the E, 1st fret on the E, and then we take it back up the octave, down the octave, and then finally one last time up high. So that whole riff number 10 at close to regular speed is going to look like and you're done. There it is, everyone. If you enjoyed the lesson, don't forget to click like and let me know. You can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future updates, and you can leave me any comments or questions you might have downstairs in the box. I do my best to get back to all of those. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to grab the full note and tab transcription so you can practice at home. And until next time,